You stand alone. The people who promised loyalty have vanished. Friends have become strangers. Colleagues have turned cold. The crowd that once surrounded you, scattered like smoke and wind. This moment feels like death. But here's what no one tells you. In 1512, Niccolò Machiavelli watched his world collapse. The Medici family seized Florence. He was arrested, tortured on suspicion of conspiracy, then exiled to his countryside estate in Sant'Andrea. Everything he built, gone. During those years of isolation, from 1513 to 1520, he wrote The Prince, not from triumph, from ruin. He had witnessed men rise on the shoulders of supporters, only to be torn down when those same supporters shifted allegiance. He understood something the comfortable masses never grasp. Human loyalty operates on a ledger of self-interest. When your utility expires, so does their presence. So the question burning in your mind right now is simple. How do you win when everyone turns against you? If you're ready to face the answer without flinching, stay with me. Because what you're experiencing right now isn't tragedy. It's the violent shattering of comfortable illusions, the necessary destruction that precedes genuine power. Withdrew. This is the mechanical operation of human nature. Machiavelli described it with surgical precision. Consider Job. Friends surrounded him during prosperity. Catastrophe struck. They accused him of hidden sins. They abandoned him because association with a fallen man threatened their standing. Your shock reveals naivety. If bonds were genuine, why dissolve when conditions changed? Moral bonds strengthen under pressure. Interest-based bonds shatter. You cannot build power on others' affections. Affection is weather, governed by forces beyond control. Machiavelli divided existence into two forces. Fortuna, everything beyond your control. Virtù, your capacity to impose will upon chaos. When everyone turns against you, Fortuna has struck. Raging against this is like cursing the ocean for being wet. What remains is virtù, strategic thinking, decisiveness, courage, ruthlessness when necessary. Fortuna resembles a violent river. The wise build dams during calm weather. Your abandonment is the flood. Did you build dams? Did you cultivate capabilities independent of approval? Or did you build everything on the... In The Prince, Machiavelli wrote one of history's most misunderstood lines. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Most people read this as an endorsement of cruelty. They miss the deeper architecture. Love depends entirely on the other person's emotional state. They love you today because you serve their needs. Tomorrow, when conditions shift, that love evaporates. Fear, Machiavelli argues, depends on your consistent demonstration of capability. It's internal to you, a function of your power. But here's the truth beneath the truth. Genuine power requires neither love nor fear. It operates independently of others' emotions entirely. You build capabilities so formidable that their presence or absence becomes irrelevant to your core stability. Like Atlas holding the sky, he requires no one's permission to exist. Machiavelli teaches you need two natures, the lion and the fox. The lion represents raw strength, the capacity to intimidate through sheer presence. The fox represents cunning, the intelligence to see traps before they close. The lion alone falls into obvious snares. The fox alone gets crushed by stronger predators. You need both. Now apply this to why they really left. Did you outgrow them? Understanding the true cause prevents future blindness. Fox wisdom identifies the pattern. Lion strength enforces the boundary. This combination forms the core of self-mastery. Now we enter Machiavelli's most controversial teaching, the strategic use of cruelty. When relationships drain your energy and undermine your development, you must cut them without hesitation. Machiavelli distinguished between cruelty well used and cruelty poorly used. Cruelty well used is swift, decisive, serves strategic purpose. Cruelty poorly used is prolonged, serves only emotional need. Cutting toxic connections decisively is cruelty well used. Maintaining relationships out of guilt while secretly resenting them is cruelty to yourself. Most people remain in harmful situations because they fear the pain of severance more than they value their own development. Your mindset must shift. From how do I avoid pain to what serves my strategic interests. Nietzsche identified most humans as herd animals, creatures who find safety in sameness and terror in difference. When you began growing beyond average, you triggered the herd's defensive mechanism. Your difference makes them uncomfortable because it reveals their own mediocrity. The weak define good through negation. Good is whatever isn't threatening. Evil is strength, confidence, difference. This is slave morality, born from powerlessness. At its core sits something darker, ressentiment. Not simple resentment. This is the psychological poison Nietzsche identified in 1887. The state of those who cannot strike back directly, so they rewrite reality instead. They transform their weakness into virtue, your power into sin, their stagnation into moral superiority. The crowd that abandoned you operates from this exact framework. Your growth didn't just threaten them, it exposed the lie they built their identity upon. They couldn't admit their own stagnation, so they reframed your ambition as arrogance, your confidence as narcissism, your evolution as betrayal. This understanding changes everything. They didn't judge you from objective truth. They judged you from a defensive crouch, protecting egos too fragile to face the mirror you represented. The path forward demands something different. Master morality, built not through negation, but through raw, creative force. You develop emotional strength by, Nietzsche called this fundamental force, will to power, and most people completely misunderstand it. Will to power is not about dominating others. It's the drive to overcome yourself, to become more than you currently are. A plant demonstrates will to power when it pushes towards sunlight. An artist demonstrates it when they bleed to perfect their craft. It's the life force itself, the refusal to stagnate. But when you lose touch with this force, you become passive, reactive, enslaved to whatever circumstances throw at you. Your abandonment creates a fork in the road. You can chase their approval back, call them, explain yourself, reshape who you are to fit their expectations again. That path points your will to power outward, making them the source of your worth. Or you can direct it inward. Use this isolation as fuel for unprecedented self-overcoming. Build capabilities you couldn't build while performing for their validation. The question Nietzsche would ask, where will you invest your life force? Here's the trap most people fall into. They begin defining themselves through opposition to those who left. I'll show them. They'll regret abandoning me. This is what Nietzsche called ressentiment. In his work on the genealogy of morality, he identified this as something far more dangerous than ordinary resentment. It's a psychological poison, a reverse value system born from weakness. Even if you achieve massive external success driven by this fuel, you remain chained. They still occupy the center of your universe. You've just switched from seeking their approval to seeking their pain. Either way, they define you. And ressentiment guarantees you'll never create genuine values of your own. When resolution proves impossible, The biblical wisdom is clear. Shake the dust off your feet. Move forward. Refuse to carry the poison of unresolved grievance. But here's where most people fail the test. They move forward physically while remaining chained psychologically. Self-mastery requires brutal examination. Every goal, every ambition, every action. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it serves my genuine development? Or am I doing this to prove something to those who left? If the answer involves proving anything to anyone, you remain enslaved. True victory means reaching a point where they cease to exist in your mind. Their opinions, their regrets, their eventual realizations all become completely irrelevant to your journey. This is freedom. Nietzsche called this amor fati, love of fate. Most people respond to abandonment with denial or grudging acceptance. Denial says, this should not have happened. Acceptance says, okay, this happened, I'll deal with it. But amor fati says something the herd cannot comprehend. I love that this happened. I would not change it even if I could. The shift is not semantic, it's surgical. Because as long as you wish circumstances were different, you remain in conflict with reality itself. And that conflict drains the very energy you need for transformation. The question becomes, can you stop resisting what already is? Use eternal recurrence as your filter. Before each decision, ask yourself this: if I had to make this choice and live with its consequences forever, would I? That question cuts through every rationalization, every emotional reaction, every hidden weakness disguised as strength. Nietzsche describes human transformation through 3 stages: the camel, the lion, the child. Understanding where you are determines whether you win alone or remain trapped. The camel kneels to accept heavy loads, society's values, others' expectations, the crowd's endless demands. Before your abandonment, you were the camel, carrying the weight of approval you never truly wanted. The lion roars, "No!" at everything the camel carried. Right now, in this abandonment, you're becoming the lion. You feel the rage, the defiance, the urge to reject everything that led to this pain. But here's what the crowd will never tell you. Most people get stuck in the lion phase. They spend entire lives defining themselves through opposition, through bitterness, through what they hate. They achieve independence from others' expectations, but remain chained to their own resentment. The child is your destination, the state where you create freely, unburdened by judgment, unburdened by reactive anger. The child says yes to life without reference to old structures. Your goal is to pass through the lion quickly. Use its fire to break free, but don't build your home there. Machiavelli gives you the architecture. Nietzsche gives you the philosophy. You need both. Machiavelli alone creates effective but hollow individuals. You understand power dynamics. You navigate social structures skillfully. But to what end? Without higher purpose, capability becomes mere manipulation. Clever, but meaningless. Nietzsche alone creates profound but vulnerable individuals. You forge your own values. You achieve spiritual independence. But if you lack practical skills for navigating reality, the world crushes you despite your noble intentions. The synthesis creates the truly dangerous individual, someone who combines strategic excellence with transcendent purpose, someone who operates effectively in the world while remaining spiritually independent from it. Machiavelli teaches you to play chess at the highest level. Nietzsche teaches you that chess is just a game. Your worth does not depend on winning. Combined, you play masterfully while remaining spiritually free from the outcome. This is invincibility, the most difficult balance to strike, seeing human nature clearly without becoming bitter. Machiavelli's realism about human selfishness can easily curdle into cynicism. Nietzsche's diagnosis of herd mentality can breed contempt. The synthesis requires something harder. See humans exactly as they are. Self-interested, fearful, often weak, while maintaining amor fati about this reality. You don't rage against human nature. any more than you rage against gravity. You simply understand it, work within its laws. Consider an old parable. The scorpion approaches the frog at the river's edge. There's an ancient fable that reveals everything. A scorpion asks a frog to carry him across the river. The frog refuses, fearing the sting. The scorpion promises he won't. Logic dictates he wouldn't drown himself. Midway across, the scorpion stings anyway. As both sink, the frog asks why. It is my nature. The people who abandoned you acted according to their nature. Expecting them to act differently was your error, not their sin. This realization doesn't create bitterness. It creates clarity. They were scorpions being scorpions. You were the frog expecting scorpions to be something other than scorpions. Here's the shift. From people are terrible to people are what they are, and I will navigate accordingly. Most people operate from fear and limitation.
This is not a debate.
You don't hate them for being limited any more than you hate children for being children. But you also don't trust them with burdens they cannot carry. The Machiavelli-Nietzsche synthesis operates here with surgical precision. You use strategic capability to build independence. Then you use that independence for something the herd can never touch: self-overcoming. But there's a distinction most people miss entirely: the difference between loneliness and solitude. Your abandonment cleared a workshop. Use it. Structure your solitude with ruthless intention. Physical training that builds capability. Intellectual study that sharpens understanding. Creative work that expresses your emerging values. The crowd cannot follow you here. Their chatter would shatter the focused silence. Their mediocre advice would dilute the concentrated wisdom you're distilling. This is where Nietzsche's amor fati meets Machiavelli's virtù. Amor fati teaches you to love your fate, including the abandonment. Virtù teaches you to master your fate through strategic action. The paradox: how do you love circumstances while working to change them? The resolution is temporal. Love what happened, the pain, the betrayal, the revelation of their true nature. These events made you who you're becoming, but refuse to accept what happens next. Build capabilities that prevent future vulnerability. Establish positions where their absence becomes irrelevant. This creates stability most people never achieve. No resentment about the past. No anxiety about the future. Because here's the first truth you must accept: they were never truly with you. Their presence was always conditional. And here's the second truth that will cut even deeper. Most people choose comfortable slavery over difficult freedom. When you began pursuing genuine freedom, freedom to think independently, to question what everyone accepts, you offered them an unspoken invitation. They refused. Nietzsche understood this perfectly. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, written between 1883 and 1885, he tells of a philosopher who descends from 10 years of mountain solitude. Zarathustra comes to the town square with wisdom. He announces that humanity must evolve beyond its current state. The crowd laughs. They don't want evolution, they want entertainment. A rope dancer performs and falls to his death. Zarathustra must carry the broken body alone. The lesson? The herd cannot follow where the exceptional must go. Your growth made their chosen slavery visible. You became a walking reminder of the freedom they refused. Rather than examine their chains, they eliminated the reminder. You.
Guilty.
Truth 3 cuts to the bone. The world owes you nothing. Every child is taught fairness. These teachings become dangerous delusions in adulthood. Machiavelli watched this illusion destroy men who believed the universe kept score. Nietzsche saw what most refused to accept. The universe operates on power, not justice. There is no cosmic accountant tallying your suffering, no karmic balance sheet waiting to settle scores. Only will to power. Life forms struggling to maximize their expression. Your abandonment wasn't unfair. Unfair implies violation of some cosmic standard. No such standard exists outside human imagination. People acted according to their nature, their interests, and waiting for them to realize their mistake, to feel guilty, to apologize, that's waiting for something that will never arrive. This truth, while harsh, is freedom. Once you stop waiting for justice, for recognition, for vindication, you can redirect that energy toward building actual power. Now here's the gift you didn't ask for. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. You were becoming too comfortable. Safety breeds weakness. The familiar breeds death of the spirit. Abraham left his homeland. Moses led his people into the wilderness. Every hero's journey begins with departure from the known. The crowd offered you comfort in exchange for limitation. Stay small, think small, want small things. That price no longer binds you. You're now free to become as large as your capabilities allow. Real victory means you forget they exist. You're so absorbed in your own becoming that they simply disappear from your consciousness. This is the only victory worth pursuing. Now the work begins. Your first task is building capability that needs no one's approval. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity. You must become formidable in practical terms. Ask yourself 3 questions. What can I do that creates real value in the world? What skills make me useful regardless of social circumstances? What knowledge do I possess that others actually need? For every weakness you identify, you build a systematic plan. Strength comes through deliberate training. Skill comes through thousands of hours of focused practice. This process is brutal and unglamorous. There are no shortcuts. Most people will never do this work. That's precisely why it works. Economic independence deserves special attention here. As long as you depend on others for survival, you remain vulnerable to their withdrawal. Build skills that generate income independently. Physical capability matters more than most realize. A strong body forges a strong mind. When you know you can endure physical hardship, psychological storms become. When you build yourself this way, hardship becomes easier to navigate. Intellectual development sharpens your lens. Study power dynamics, human nature, strategy. Build a framework that lets you understand what you're experiencing. Nietzsche called it revaluing all values. Examine every belief you live by, every goal, every standard. Ask yourself, who gave me this? Most people live by inherited values, beliefs absorbed from parents, culture, peers. These may not align with who you actually are. Your abandonment creates an opportunity. Question everything. Write down every value you currently hold. Then trace where each one came from. Keep only what you'd choose if you had to live by it eternally. Discard the rest. Regardless of who gets offended. This is frightening, because it means becoming someone unrecognizable to those who knew you. Good. You're not seeking their recognition. You're seeking your own authenticity. The difference between loneliness and solitude is entirely mental. Loneliness is the feeling that you lack something necessary. Solitude is recognition that you possess something valuable. Structure your alone time intentionally. Remove passive consumption that numbs you. Replace it with active creation. Write, even if no one reads it. Build, even if no one sees it. The goal isn't external validation. The goal is an internal life so rich that external approval becomes redundant. Solitude is the workshop where you forge self-mastery. The crowd cannot follow you here. The words will feel like lies at first. You will speak the affirmation and feel nothing. Your brain knows it is not true yet. Continue anyway. Repetition is not about belief. It is about rewiring neural pathways, training your mind to search for evidence that supports the words. As you speak them, hunt for proof. What strength did the abandonment force you to build? What illusions did it shatter? What freedom did it hand you? Focus on these genuine benefits until they eclipse the pain. Each night, run the eternal recurrence test. If you had to live today infinitely, would you choose it? If the answer is no, identify what you did wrong, then plan to change it tomorrow. This is Nietzsche's entire philosophy compressed into one command: overcome yourself. Constantly. Not to prove anything to those who left, not to impress the ones who abandoned you. You push past your limits because becoming more capable is inherently valuable. You run farther. You think deeper. You conquer the fear that paralyzed you yesterday. Every expanded capacity is a victory over your former self. This focus gives you direction that no one can take from you. But here is what most miss about self-overcoming. You'll know you've won when specific markers appear. These markers are internal. They require no applause, no validation from those who left. First marker. You think about them with complete emotional neutrality. They've become facts of your history, no more charged than any other fact. You don't hate them. You don't miss them. They simply are. And you've moved beyond caring. Second marker. You've developed virtue sufficient to make you independent. Economic independence means you don't fear losing relationships. Emotional strength means you endure difficulty without collapsing. Physical capability means you trust your body to handle what comes. Third marker. You've created your own values through Nietzschean revaluation. Your goals emerge from authentic will to power, not from reaction against others. You know what you value and why. You live these values regardless of their opinions. Fourth marker. You can honestly affirm eternal recurrence. If you had to live this exact life infinite times, including the abandonment, you would choose it, because you recognize every element was necessary to forge who you've become. Fifth marker. You embody the synthesis. Machiavellian strategy meets Nietzschean transcendence. You understand power dynamics, navigate them effectively, but remain spiritually independent from outcomes. This transformation completes when you stop asking permission. You don't need others to validate your choices, approve your path, confirm your worth. You decide what you'll become, and become it through systematic will. You've stopped explaining yourself. Those who understand need no explanation. Those who don't won't be convinced by one. You've stopped seeking revenge. The person consumed by the need to punish those who abandoned them remains chained to them forever. You've transcended that need entirely, because you've transcended them entirely. You've stopped waiting for recognition. Whether they eventually realize they were wrong doesn't matter. Whether they regret their decision doesn't matter. None of it matters, because they no longer occupy space in your psychological universe. You create from abundance rather than reacting from scarcity. Your projects emerge from surplus energy seeking expression, not from wounds demanding validation. Here's the ultimate paradox of this entire journey. You win by no longer caring about winning. You achieve power by transcending the need for power. You find connection by becoming complete in solitude. As long as their abandonment matters to you, they win. Genuine victory means their entire existence becomes irrelevant to yours. This isn't indifference born from suppressed pain. This is indifference born from such complete self-possession that external circumstances lack power to disturb your internal equilibrium. Machiavelli would recognize this as perfect virtù, capability so developed that fortuna cannot destroy you, regardless of what it brings. Nietzsche would recognize this as the Übermensch, the person who has overcome themselves thoroughly enough to create their own values independent of herd morality. You become dangerous in the deepest sense, someone who cannot be controlled through approval or disapproval, someone who cannot be manipulated through fear of abandonment, someone who has transcended the very game that this danger is your freedom. This freedom is your victory. You stand where Machiavelli stood in 1512, stripped of his diplomatic post when the Medici returned to Florence, tortured on suspicion of conspiracy, exiled to his countryside estate. Where Nietzsche stood in 1883, descending from his mountain with truth the crowd could not comprehend, mocked in the marketplace while they watched circus performers fall. Where every person who achieved genuine independence stood, alone, stripped of comfortable illusions, facing the unfiltered structure of power. This moment is not tragedy. This moment is opportunity, unprecedented in its potential. The crowd abandoned you because you outgrew the container that held them. Their departure was not verdict on your worth. Their departure was evidence of your evolution. Now you face a choice that determines everything. You can attempt to regain their approval, modify yourself to fit back into the box. This is the path of the camel, carrying burdens that crush your spirit.
Or you develop virtù that makes you invulnerable to fortune's turns. Practice amor fati until you genuinely love your fate. Pursue self-overcoming until external validation becomes irrelevant. This is the path of sovereign power. But understand this, your emotional strength